Right, we are now recording. Let's get into it. So, hello everyone. My name is Sarah McAnulty. I am a squid biologist. I founded Skype a Scientist back in 2017, and I'm now the executive director of the program. And anytime you email Skype a Scientist, if you're not emailing your match, you are emailing me. I am the only full-time worker here at Skype a Scientist. And we also have part-time David Jenkins, who is a computer scientist, a computational biologist. Who wrote our algorithm and matches everybody up. He's up in Boston. So I'm going to go over basically, who we are and what we do to start us off. So Skype a Scientist is a science communication or informal science education organization. And we try to connect people with science, including classrooms and also adults here in Philadelphia. We, of course, match scientists with classrooms, scout troops, libraries, groups of adults, anybody who needs to talk to a scientist. We will get you matched up for free. We also do Skype a Scientist live sessions. Those are live streams that we host on Zoom and then post afterward to YouTube. We do events for adults next week, actually. That's next week. Yep. On September 6th, we're going to be doing a show all about the deep sea based in Philly. We're going to have scientists who are currently on a research vessel in the middle of the Galapagos call in to like a show at a bar. And we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff from musical comedy to talking to scientists for adults with beers in hand. We also do a bunch of public art. I won't really be talking much about the adult events or the public art for this session because we're going to be talking about the scientists matching with classrooms, but this is also stuff that we do. We do everything from like murals here in Philadelphia. We did one in Boston recently. To having science information like on coasters that we distribute to bars here in Philadelphia to try to connect people with science however we can in ways that weave into their lives. That's what we do here. So I want to tell you a little bit more about Skype a Scientist Live before we really dig deep into our flagship program, the matching program that I think most of you are here to hear about. So Skype a Scientist Live is a monthly live stream session. At the height of the pandemic, we were doing them like multiple times a week, but that was a different time, wasn't it? And now we're down to once a month. We bring in scientists who I think are really great at explaining what they do. We bring in a wide variety of representations of science. This is both the identity of the scientist who we're talking to, and also the type of scientists that we talk about. Last semester, we did one on coral reefs, one on cold oceans. We did one on robotics, parasitology. We'll do another parasitology in the spring semester of 2024 because March is parasitology month. And so we make it as easy for you all as teachers to participate in these sessions as possible. They're always at 1 p.m. Eastern. The day of the week varies. There's one a month. You can RSVP for them. They're also, like everything in our program, they're free. And if you want to, you can have your students watch them later. We post them all to YouTube afterward. They're about 45 minutes. And much like we would hope the sessions that you have individually with your classrooms, it's basically the scientist introduces who they are, what they do, what they like it. They might show us some pictures of what being a scientist in their field looks like. Because with this fall, we're going to be talking about space, wildlife biology, and physics, which are like three wildly different areas of science. And so these three scientists, their days as scientists are going to look very, very different from each other. We have ASL interpretation at all of these sessions. You can also enable captions if that's more helpful. And we post them to YouTube. So if you want to assign them as homework, if you want to assign them as extra credit, you can do that. We have a backlog of many of these episodes. So feel free to go back. There's a couple that are like, I learned so much. Like there was one on carbon recapture. So like taking carbon dioxide from the air, turning it into like acid in liquid, and then pumping it into old oil wells that have this like rock inside of them that over hundreds of years will absorb the carbon dioxide and make the acid just back to regular water. Wild ride, that one. I have to recommend that one for the AP classes out there. It was a bit technical, but I learned a lot. Anyway, you can RSVP for those on our website, skypeascientist.com. You click the like events tab, Skype a Scientist Live, and these are the 4 we've got going on this fall. Occasionally, we'll also show a film if like a film studio reaches out to us and says, you know, we have a science film, we'd like to offer it to classrooms. We'll be doing that in September with a film called A Million Miles Away. It's about the story of this young boy growing up in Southern California, a family of migrant workers who wants to become an astronaut, and then his path to ending up working for NASA. So we'll be doing that on September 19th, and then having a Q&A with both the filmmakers and also an astronomer. Not an astronaut, an astronomer, but still very cool. Okay, so let's talk about the program where you personally, as a classroom, get matched with a scientist. This is super, super customizable. Our program has thousands of scientist volunteers at any given time ready to get matched with your class. We really want to encourage conversation here. So don't expect a scientist to come in and give a lecture to your classroom. They're probably going to introduce, who they are, what they do, why they like it, a little bit about what that job looks like, a little bit about maybe how they got to that career path, depending on what you want. And then hopefully from there, it's all Q&A. You will have the opportunity to talk to the scientist over email before the session happens with your class. And that's a really great opportunity for you to be like, you know, I have a group of students. You tell them how old your students are, what they're particularly interested in, and kind of like where your students are at. Different groups, even of the same ages as you are all very familiar with, just have different vibes in different classrooms. Some classrooms, you're probably going to fill the whole time with questions. Others, you might have some shy students. You might want to have those students prepare questions ahead of time. So, you know, the scientists will hopefully, if they've followed the instructions that we give them, which they don't always do, giving you something about what they do. So maybe they'll send you like a YouTube video, either that they made or that another science communicator has made, that gives you an introduction to their area of expertise. One thing that we really hope that people get out of using our program, both you as teachers and also the students, is that scientists are not all-knowing. We don't know everything. We just are people who happen to know a lot about one narrow thing, usually. So I am a squid biologist. I'm also called a marine biologist. Someone might hear marine biologist and then think I know a lot about dolphins. And while I know more about dolphins than probably an average person in my city here, I don't know like a ton about dolphins. So a lot of the dolphin questions, I'm going to be like, I don't know. How about a squid question? And I'll be able to know the answer. And I think it's actually super helpful for students to hear that, like, when scientists say, I don't know, because I think a lot of times, I know when I was young, I thought that scientists must be super, super smart, like unachievably smart. And we're not. We just really like a thing. And in my case, that thing is squid. So here's how we match up your classroom with a scientist. You fill out a pretty long Google form, but bear with us through that lengthy form because we really want to know exactly what you need so we can get you that type of scientist. So you tell us a lot of stuff from when your class meets, the type of scientist you want, who your students are. You tell us optionally if half or more of your classroom comes from a historically excluded group in STEM, and then we'll try to match your classroom with a scientist from that same group. We know how really critical representation is, particularly for younger folks, to see themselves in science, for making science seem like a career that's right for them, where they'll belong. And so we try to prioritize matching identity as well as subject matter. Scientists will also tell us who they're comfortable speaking with, how many classrooms they're willing to talk with over the course of a semester, between 1 and 5 classrooms, the ages they're comfortable with. We don't necessarily want to put a particle physicist who studies quantum physics, something I don't know much about at all, with a 3rd grade classroom if they don't think that they could explain the Large Hadron Collider to 3rd graders. We don't want to put anybody in that situation. So we really try to match you with someone who's a perfect fit for your group. We match everybody up once a week. So we have a matching algorithm that we run everybody's forms through and try to match everybody up to make the best match for you. You can get a match, realize it's not right. Maybe you like had a bunch of snow days and you're out of like wiggle room in your curriculum to have a session. That's okay. You can say decline and don't rematch. If you think that maybe you want the same type of scientist, but not this specific scientist for whatever reason, you can decline. And then when you decline that scientist, you automatically will get rematched the following Thursday. We typically match on Thursdays. We serve between 5,000 and 10,000 classrooms a year at Skype Scientists. We're all over the world. So we also take into consideration time zone when we're matching everyone up. You tell us the times you're available. And so we might match you with a scientist who's nowhere geographically close to you, but who happens to be free, you know, at nighttime in their time zone when you meet in the morning in your time zone. If, for example, you want a type of science that's really specific, and maybe we only have 10 scientists in the world in our database that study that thing. So, you know, manage the time zones. That's a bit of a challenge, but more often than not, if you want a type of science that's pretty broad, then we'll probably match you with somebody in your time zone. But if you want something super specific, we might get a little weird with the time zones, and that might be like a thing you have to calculate. All right, so here is like a very practical how to get a match using our program. You go to our website, you click, this actually says sign up. So you click sign up here. This is our website, click sign up. And then it brings you to this page here. You can click, of course, the teacher. You can also, these two buttons actually take you to the same place, but we wanted people to feel like they had a button to click. So you can click the teacher sign up. From here, you will go to our group leader form. You'll notice it's called a group leader form, not a teacher form, because there are all kinds of groups that use our program, and we want our form to make the most sense for everybody. Let's really take a moment to review this like extremely asterisked statement here. So let's say that you teach 8th grade science and you have 5 sections of the same class, different kids in each class. And you want to have a session with all of those classes. That's wonderful. We encourage you to do that. We generally have way more scientist volunteers than classrooms that sign up. So you should feel like however many scientists you will like make use of, that you'll connect with students, sign up for it. This is not like we've got plenty is what I'm saying. So you want to fill out, if you have 5 sections of the same class and you want to have 5 sessions, fill out that form 5 times. The algorithm will preferentially match you with the same scientist multiple times if you request the same thing. So if you ask for 5 biologists, it will give you ideally 1 biologist who is available for 5 sessions, because we think it's easier for you to schedule with 1 person instead of juggling emails back and forth between 5 people. If you want 5 different scientists for 1 biology class, then maybe pick different types of biologists in order to make sure that that works. Also, I don't think this is probably relevant to people watching this, but if you are a family at home, like if you're watching the YouTube later, parents need to fill out the form. Students under 18 should never be talking to the scientist without an adult present. We want to make sure that these sessions are safe. And so having a parent, guardian, teacher present for the sessions and coordinating with the scientist is really, really critical. So if you want to have, for example, a group project where students are talking to a scientist about their group project, an adult needs to be present for those sessions. It's really important for safety. So you got to be 18 or older to fill out the form. Somebody around has to be responsible there. And like I had mentioned before, we match Thursdays. You probably will get a match Friday. Sometimes our matchmaker is traveling for work. He has a full-time job on top of working with us. And so, you know, it's usually Thursdays and Fridays. Okay, so when you are thinking about what type of scientist you want to have your group talk with, we have about 30 categories of scientists that you can choose from. These range from physicists, chemists, a veterinarian, or a medical doctor. We generally have fewer medical doctors than anything else. Those get snapped up the quickest. So do meteorologists. Those two go the quickest every year. Marine biology, engineers of different kinds. We really try to expand to its limits what a scientist is. That includes museum professionals. That includes social scientists as well. Those are also science. So pick whatever you really want. Don't feel like you need to say, like, I really want a chemist, but really I'll take any scientist. Just click chemist, because if you click the any scientist button, we will really give you any scientist. Really request the thing that you actually want. And if we don't have that, then we'll deal with it. But usually we have what you need, particularly if you're in the continental United States, because that's where most of our scientists are located. If you want something more specific than a marine biologist, maybe you have a classroom that like won't stop talking about penguins or spiders, or some specific aspect of physics, or something like that, no problem. We can accommodate that as well. So this is our scientist search tool. It's linked on the sign up page. If you scroll down past where you click to sign up to get access to the forms, there's a box that says how this works. And then it gives you a step-by-step guide on how to use our program. And there's a link there to access this scientist search form. So let's say, you know, here is all of our scientists listed here in alphabetical order. You put into the search bar here the thing that you want to know about. So let's go with spiders. This given semester, we had 3,000 scientists participating, and of those, 3 of them studied spiders. When you are considering requesting a specific scientist, I want to put one like disclaimer out there. Sometimes the scientist that you want may not be a good match for your classroom. Maybe they aren't available at the time that your class meets. Maybe they said that they only want to talk with an age range that your class does not fit within. So if you request a specific scientist, like make sure that it's like worth the risk of getting put into like match limbo. So here's how our matching system works. Every week we match everybody. There are some classrooms that we can't find a match for. Maybe we don't have a scientist who studies the specialty that they ask for, that speaks the language that they request, because you can request science sessions in a wide variety of languages. English, of course, is the most common. We have a lot of Spanish speakers, we've got a lot of German and French speakers as well, and Chinese speakers, Mandarin specifically. But if you want like spiders that speak Spanish, we may or may not have that. And so if you request a specific scientist, know that we may not be able to get you a scientist quickly. Once a month, we go through and see like who didn't get a match, and we email those people and say, hey, the specific thing you asked for, we didn't have. So submit another form and try again with slightly less stringent requests. If you need it faster than that, Friday comes and goes and you didn't get a match, feel free to email me, skypeascientist@gmail.com or sarah@skypeascientist.com, and I'll check to see what happened and we'll get that fixed. Pay attention to time zone. These people live all over the world. So if you are located in California, think about when this time zone is typically awake. That can help. If there's like 3 scientists that effectively would be the same, pick the scientist in your time zone if you can. So in this case, we're looking, let's say we're in Colorado, and these 3 scientists, Monica is over in Africa, Sam is in California somewhere, but Paula is in my time zone. We'll pick Paula. Okay, next important piece of information. Our algorithm is great, but it's not like Silicon Valley level complex. So you better make sure that you copy these like from the search tool directly into the box, because if you misspell it, it's going to be like, who's that? I don't know. So copy and paste it precisely to get the match to work if that scientist is available. This is one of the questions on the form. All right, you've been matched. You have a match. Everything is wonderful. You will get this email in your inbox, dear your name. And then critically, you have to click to confirm or reject the match. Technically, you can still have a session without confirming, but then you're going to get pesky emails from David over and over again being like, is this a good match? Is this a good match? Until you click the button. All you have to do to not get those pesky emails is click this and say, you know, I confirm this match or I decline this match. When you decline, again, you either say, I want another match, or I decline this match and I'm all set. I don't need another match. So this is the website that will get pulled up, and you can get your contact information for that scientist. You want to click here to show that you're confirmed. Also, you want to contact your scientist. So once you get confirmed, don't wait for your scientist to contact you. They might contact you before you contact them, but go ahead and reach out to them right away. Say who your class is, what they are hoping to get out of this, and then, you know, take it from there. If you have any problems, I am here to help you. Feel free to email me. If your scientist turns out is like in the field, studying those spiders in the tree canopies of far, far away from their office and can't meet with you, we'll get you another one. We've got plenty of scientists that are ready to go, so don't hesitate to contact me. I'm here to help. All right, so here's the general gist. Email that scientist, pick a day and a time to meet, test your tech together, you know, I don't want to say post-pandemic, you know, back since the pandemic has begun. We're pretty good at Zoom at this point, so you may not need to test your tech. Maybe you're like, I got this. That's fine. But sometimes you still might want to, depends. Then have a Q&A. We hope that your students' curiosity is really driving what you all talk about in that session. So, like I said, usually match on Thursdays, matches go out Fridays. If you do not get a match within a week, if Friday comes and goes, give it through the weekend, just in case David needs a minute to send out those match emails. If by Sunday night, you still haven't gotten a match and you definitely signed up like Wednesday or before, that means probably one of two things. One, definitely possible, our match email went to your spam box. So check your spam box, the match might be there. If it's not in your spam folder, then you may not have gotten a match. Feel free to email us and we can solve that problem for you. Maybe you want to submit another form completely asking for something slightly less specific. That's fine too. Piece of advice, scientists are planners. They plan way, way in advance. So if you know you want to have a Skype a Scientist session this fall, sign up right now. Like I already know what conferences I'm going to in January. I like have a planner ready to go for January. So many scientists are the same way. If you expect to sign up on a Tuesday and have a Skype a Scientist session the next week, it might work out, but in all likelihood, the scientist might be booked up the following week. So the earlier you can fill out those forms, get a match, start that conversation, the better. Also, signing up earlier in the semester makes it more likely to get what you're hoping to get. If we ever come to a point where we're running low on scientists, I'll just send out another email being like, we need more of you, but that's never needed to happen. We've always had plenty of scientists. Okie doke, here's some tips for a successful session with our program. One, prepare your students, have them read something about what the scientist knows about so that their questions get them more in-depth, fun information. They can feel like they really know what they're doing when having that conversation. Critically, give your scientists a sense of what your students know. Some of our scientists have been doing this now since 2017. They've got a really good sense of what different age levels know. Maybe they had kids themselves, and so they know what a fifth grader knows. Some of our scientists may not really interact with fifth graders a lot at all. And so you might need to be like, hey, in fifth grade, we're learning blah, 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 blah. And so they'll be like, okay, so I probably shouldn't talk about like T cell receptors or something that's going to go right over a fifth grader's head. Just giving your scientist a sense of what to expect can help a lot. And also in your session, Sometimes our scientists, they're not like trained teachers like you are. They're like immunologists, they're cell biologists, they're astronomers, whatever they are. And so sometimes you might need to be like, oh, Dr. Whoever, could you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by a gravitational wave or something? Like, if you don't know it, your students don't know it, that's okay. Just ask the scientists to like explain what they mean. Sometimes they forget what is and isn't jargon because all they've done for the last 10 years are talk to scientists. Some of our scientists, you'll never need to ask what they mean because they know how to translate. They know how to code switch back and forth between academic and classroom. So, that's something to keep in mind. For some students, particularly your classes that are a little quieter, and for scientists who like to have a little more preparation, you might have students like write one question ahead of time. You can send that to the scientist. You can just have them ready with a question. That can help with quiet classrooms. And some scientists really like to have some questions ahead of time, particularly our first timer volunteers, so that they kind of have a sense of like what kind of questions they're going to get asked. Yeah. And make sure your students know vaguely what the scientist will know about so that the whole session is, yeah, that's gonna be really, really helpful. So general navigation of our program. If you want to have a conversation with a scientist, with your group, if you want all of your students' questions answered, then you should have a Skype a scientist session with your group. If it's okay for your students, maybe your students are quiet, maybe you don't want to have to go through the rigmarole of emailing back and forth with someone, you can just come to our live sessions. That works too, but be aware, like 50 to 100 classrooms will go to every one of those, and we cannot get through every question that's asked. We'll get like 500 questions in 45 minutes, and we'll do our best on really good sessions. We'll get through 60 of them. So if you want every student to feel like heard, have their questions answered, please have a session with your group. We've got plenty, that's, we definitely encourage that. But also understand that time is limited, etc. If you want a scientist that studies a broad category, and some of the categories that I would consider broad categories might feel not broad at all to you, like marine biologist, or like biomedical engineer, then great, sign up for a match using the categories. The categories will get you a match faster and more reliably. But if you have a group of students who's like hyper focused on a certain thing, then go ahead, use the scientist search tool. Also, maybe you worked with a scientist last semester who you just loved and you want to work with them again. Scientist search tool and specific request is great for that too. All right, so as you may have realized, Skype a Scientist is overall a pretty small organization that serves a lot of people, and we can serve many more than we currently do. The whole staff is me, Sarah McAnulty, and David, our matchmaker, who works maybe 2 hours a week. We don't really have a lot of funding over here, and so when you sign up, you do not have to donate to us if that's a stretch for you financially. That's fine. We will find funding elsewhere, but we really don't have enough funding to advertise our program. So if you use our program, you like it, you think your peers would get use out of it, please tell other teachers that we exist. We can serve 10,000 classrooms a year, but really we could serve 20,000 classrooms a year with the same size of staff that we currently have. Like our system is scalable. So we want to have more teachers participate in our program because we're here for you. Please tell your peers we exist. We're here to help. If, for example, you are going to a teacher conference this fall, I know a lot of the science teacher conferences at the state level are going to be happening this fall. I'm happy to send you some like materials that you can share with folks there if you want to, no pressure. We have these like little postcards that I can mail to you if you want to bring them there and spread them around. We'd really appreciate that. But if you don't feel like doing it, I get it. Feel free to email skypeascientist@gmail.com. We would love your help getting the word out about our program. At this point, I would love to take any questions that you might have about how to use our program. Any clarifications, questions, etc. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okie doke. Let's see here. The Q&A doesn't have anything in there. The chat does. How long after you fill out the form will you receive an email? Depends on when in the week you filled out the form. If you filled it out like on Thursday, 15 minutes after David ran the match, it's going to be like 8 days. If you fill it out Thursday morning, you might get it within 24 hours. So yeah, typically Thursdays are when we match. Friday are when you get the email. Are there any other questions? Does this seem straightforward? Does all make sense? Great. Sounds good. Well, if you realize that you have questions later, I'm here to help. Feel free to email skypeascientist@gmail.com. I will get to your questions as quickly as I can, which is usually pretty quick. Thank you for coming to this session. I hope you've gotten something out of it. And hopefully we see you all signing up at skypeascientist.com shortly. All right. Goodbye. Have a good night.